Fear is one of the most pervasive and primal emotions that human beings experience. It manifests in countless forms, from the fear of failure, rejection, and loss, to the fear of the unknown, change, and even death. It is a force that can paralyze us, holding us back from reaching our full potential, or it can be a catalyst for growth, pushing us to overcome challenges and become stronger. The ancient Stoics, renowned for their wisdom and insight into the human condition, developed profound teachings on how to confront and master fear. These teachings are not just philosophical musings, but practical tools that can be applied in our daily lives to help us face our fears with courage, clarity, and composure. Here, we delve into 10 powerful Stoic lessons that provide timeless guidance on overcoming fear and living a life of resilience and tranquility. 1. Recognize that fear is a product of your mind. Fear is an emotion that originates not from the external world, but from within our own minds. The Stoics understood that fear is not an inherent quality of the events or circumstances we encounter, but rather a result of the thoughts and interpretations we project onto them. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, emphasized the idea that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This profound insight reminds us that it is not the events themselves that cause us to fear, but our perception of them. For instance, when faced with an uncertain situation, our minds may automatically jump to the worst possible outcomes, creating a sense of dread and anxiety. We begin to imagine all the things that could go wrong, and as a result, our fear escalates. However, if we step back and examine our thoughts, we often find that they are based on assumptions, exaggerations, or irrational beliefs. By recognizing that fear is a product of our own minds, we gain the power to challenge and change our thought patterns. Instead of allowing fear to dictate our actions, we can choose to reframe our perspective, focusing on what we can do rather than what we cannot control. This shift in mindset helps to diminish the power of fear, allowing us to approach challenges with a clearer, more balanced view. Moreover, by practicing mindfulness and staying present in the moment, we can prevent our minds from spiraling into fearful thoughts about the future or ruminating on past events. The more we practice this awareness, the more we strengthen our ability to manage fear effectively, transforming it from a debilitating force into a manageable aspect of our human experience. 2. Embrace the power of premeditation. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, is a powerful exercise that involves contemplating the worst-case scenarios that could arise in life. This might seem counterintuitive at first. Why would anyone want to dwell on potential misfortunes? However, the Stoics believed that by mentally rehearsing these scenarios, we could prepare ourselves to face them with greater equanimity and resilience. Seneca, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, wisely observed that he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. The idea here is not to become overwhelmed by fear or anxiety about what might happen, but rather to familiarize ourselves with the possible challenges we could encounter, so that we are not caught off guard when they occur. By envisioning these scenarios, we reduce their emotional impact, as we have already experienced them in our minds. This practice can be particularly helpful in overcoming the fear of the unknown, which is often one of the most paralyzing forms of fear. When we imagine the various ways a situation could unfold, whether it's a difficult conversation, a potential failure, or even the loss of a loved one, we begin to see that, although these events may be challenging, they are not insurmountable. We come to understand that we have the inner resources to cope with whatever life throws our way. Moreover, by regularly practicing premeditatio malorum, we build a mental resilience that helps us remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. We learn to accept that life is unpredictable and that uncertainty is an inherent part of the human experience. Instead of fearing the unknown, we become more adaptable and open to whatever the future may bring, confident in our ability to handle it. 3. Understand what is within your control. A central tenet of Stoic philosophy is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. This principle, eloquently articulated by the Stoic teacher Epictetus, serves as a foundation for managing fear and anxiety. According to Epictetus, our true power lies in our ability to control our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Everything else, external events, the behavior of others, the outcomes of our efforts, is beyond our control. When we fail to recognize this distinction, we often fall into the trap of worrying about things that we have no power to change, which only fuels our fears. For instance, we might fear losing our job, getting sick, or facing rejection, all of which are largely out of our hands. The more we focus on these external factors, the more powerless and fearful we feel. However, when we shift our focus to what we can control, such as our attitude, our effort, and our choices, we reclaim our sense of agency and reduce unnecessary fear. The Stoics taught that by accepting the limits of our control, we can find peace of mind. This doesn't mean that we become passive or indifferent. Rather, it means that we channel our energy into the areas where we can make a difference, while letting go of the rest. For example, if we are faced with a challenging situation at work, instead of fearing the outcome, we can focus on doing our best and maintaining our integrity, knowing that the final result is not entirely up to us. By adopting this mindset, we learn to navigate life's uncertainties with greater ease and confidence. We come to understand that while we cannot control the winds of change, we can adjust our sails and steer our ship in the direction we choose. This understanding not only helps to reduce fear, but also empowers us to live more purposefully and intentionally. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believed that one of the most effective ways to build resilience and diminish fear was through the practice of voluntary discomfort. This practice involves deliberately exposing ourselves to situations that are uncomfortable or challenging, in order to strengthen our mental and physical toughness. Seneca, in his letters, often encouraged his readers to periodically live as if they were in poverty, eating simple food, wearing coarse clothing, and sleeping on the ground. The purpose of this exercise is not to inflict unnecessary suffering on oneself, but to confront the fear of hardship and realize that it is not as terrifying as it might seem. When we voluntarily embrace discomfort, we begin to see that we are capable of enduring more than we previously thought. This practice helps to demystify the fears associated with loss, poverty, and other forms of adversity. For example, if we fear losing our financial stability, we might choose to spend a weekend living with minimal resources, eating inexpensive meals, and foregoing luxuries. Through this experience, we may discover that our happiness and well-being are not as dependent on material wealth as we had assumed. This realization can significantly reduce our fear of financial insecurity, as we come to understand that we can still find contentment even in less than ideal circumstances. Furthermore, voluntary discomfort also strengthens our capacity for self-control and discipline, which are essential for overcoming fear. By regularly challenging ourselves in small ways, we build the confidence to face larger challenges when they arise. We learn to approach life's difficulties not with dread, but with a sense of readiness and determination. This Stoic practice teaches us that fear often stems from our desire for comfort and security, and that by stepping out of our comfort zone, we can cultivate the courage and resilience needed to navigate life's inevitable challenges. 5. Accept the impermanence of all things. The Stoics deeply understood the transient nature of all things, and they taught that by accepting this impermanence, we can reduce the grip that fear has on our lives. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the idea that the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. This profound insight highlights the fact that everything in life, our successes, our failures, our joys, and our sorrows, is temporary. When we resist this reality, we set ourselves up for fear and anxiety, particularly the fear of loss. We might fear losing our loved ones, our health, our possessions, or even our own lives. However, by embracing the impermanence of all things, we begin to see that loss is not something to be feared, but an inevitable part of the human experience. This acceptance allows us to live more fully in the present moment, appreciating what we have without clinging to it or fearing its eventual loss. For example, instead of being consumed by the fear of losing a loved one, we can choose to cherish the time we have with them, knowing that our connection is precious precisely because it is not permanent. Similarly, by accepting the impermanence of our own lives, we can approach each day with a sense of gratitude and purpose, making the most of the time we have. This perspective also helps us to let go of unnecessary attachments and to focus on what truly matters. The Stoics believed that by accepting impermanence, we free ourselves from the fear of change and the anxiety of uncertainty. We come to understand that life is a constant flow of events and experiences, and that by resisting this flow, we only create suffering for ourselves. Instead, by embracing the natural rhythm of life, we can find peace and serenity, even in the face of loss and uncertainty. This Stoic wisdom teaches us that while we cannot control the passage of time, we can control how we respond to it, and in doing so, we can live a life of greater clarity, acceptance, and resilience. 6. Remember that death is a natural part of life. One of the most powerful and challenging teachings of the Stoics is their perspective on death. Unlike many who shy away from the topic, the Stoics embraced the contemplation of death as a means to live more fully and fearlessly. Seneca, in his writings, urged his readers to let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. This practice of memento mori, remembering that we will die, serves as a profound reminder of our mortality and the impermanence of all things. By regularly reflecting on the inevitability of death, the Stoics believed we could free ourselves from the fear that often governs our actions and decisions. Death, in their view, was not something to be feared, but a natural part of life's cycle. It was simply the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. When we accept this, we can approach life with a greater sense of purpose and urgency, making the most of the time we have and not allowing fear to hold us back. For instance, the fear of death often prevents people from taking risks, pursuing their passions, or fully engaging with life. By confronting this fear head-on, we can liberate ourselves from its constraints. We can choose to live boldly and authentically, knowing that our time is limited and that every moment is an opportunity to create meaning and fulfillment. Moreover, the Stoic acceptance of death also extends to the death of others. While the loss of a loved one is undoubtedly painful, the Stoics believed that by recognizing death as a natural and inevitable process, we can find solace and peace. We learn to cherish the memories and experiences we shared with those we have lost, rather than being consumed by grief or fear. This perspective not only helps us cope with loss, but also deepens our appreciation for the relationships we have in the present. In essence, the Stoic contemplation of death is not a morbid exercise, but a powerful tool for living a life of courage, presence, and meaning. 7. Focus on the present moment. One of the most common sources of fear is our tendency to project ourselves into the future, imagining all the things that could go wrong. This fear of the unknown often paralyzes us, preventing us from taking action or enjoying the present. The Stoics, however, emphasized the importance of focusing on the present moment, understanding that it is the only time in which we have true power. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us to confine yourself to the present. This simple yet profound advice encourages us to anchor ourselves in the here and now, rather than being consumed by worries about the future or regrets about the past. When we focus on the present moment, we bring our attention to what is within our immediate control, our thoughts, actions, and responses. This not only helps to reduce fear, but also allows us to engage more fully with life. For example, if we find ourselves worrying about an upcoming event, we can choose to redirect our focus to what we can do right now to prepare or to enjoy the time we have before the event. By staying present, we prevent our minds from spiraling into fearful thoughts about what might happen, and instead, we stay grounded in what is actually happening. The Stoics believed that by living in the present, we could approach life's challenges with greater clarity and calmness. we become less reactive and more deliberate in our actions, which in turn helps us to navigate uncertainty with confidence. Additionally, focusing on the present moment also helps us to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude and appreciation for the simple joys of life. We learn to savor the small moments, whether it's a conversation with a loved one, a walk in nature, or the satisfaction of a job well done, rather than constantly chasing after future goals or worrying about potential pitfalls. In this way, the practice of being present becomes a powerful antidote to fear, allowing us to live more fully and authentically, without being weighed down by the burdens of the past or the uncertainties of the future. 8. Cultivate indifference to external opinions. The fear of judgment and criticism from others is a powerful force that can hold us back from pursuing our true desires and living authentically. We often worry about what others will think of us, whether we will be accepted, respected, or admired, and this fear can lead us to conform to societal expectations, even if it means compromising our own values and dreams. The Stoics, however, taught that the opinions of others are beyond our control and should not dictate our actions. Epictetus, in his discourses, reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This insight highlights the Stoic belief that our focus should be on our own behavior and choices, rather than on how others perceive us. When we cultivate indifference to external opinions, we free ourselves from the fear of judgment and rejection. This doesn't mean that we become callous or unkind, but rather that we stop allowing the approval or disapproval of others to determine our self-worth or dictate our actions. Instead, we focus on living in accordance with our own values and principles, knowing that true fulfillment comes from within, not from external validation. For instance, if we have a passion or a dream that others might not understand or support, the fear of their judgment can easily prevent us from pursuing it. However, by embracing the Stoic mindset, we can choose to follow our path regardless of what others might think, confident in the knowledge that we are living authentically and true to ourselves. This indifference to external opinions also helps us to navigate social situations with greater ease and confidence. We become less concerned with impressing others or fitting in, and more focused on being genuine and present. This shift in perspective not only reduces fear but also enhances our relationships, as we are no longer driven by a need for approval or validation. Ultimately, by cultivating indifference to external opinions, we empower ourselves to live more freely and fully, unencumbered by the fear of what others might think. 9. Reframe fear as an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believed that every challenge we face, including fear, is an opportunity for personal growth and development. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This Stoic principle teaches us that the obstacles we encounter, rather than being mere hindrances, can actually become the very path to our growth and improvement. When we reframe fear as a challenge to be embraced rather than an enemy to be avoided, we shift our mindset from one of avoidance to one of engagement. Fear, in this light, becomes a guide, pointing us toward the areas of our lives where we need to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. For example, if we fear public speaking, instead of shying away from it, we can view it as an opportunity to develop our communication skills, build our confidence, and overcome a significant personal hurdle. By taking on this challenge, we not only reduce our fear, but also gain valuable experience and self-assurance that can be applied to other areas of our lives. This process of reframing fear as an opportunity for growth helps us to approach life's difficulties with a sense of curiosity and determination. Instead of being paralyzed by fear, we become proactive, seeking out challenges that will help us grow. Moreover, this Stoic approach encourages us to embrace failure as a natural and necessary part of the learning process. When we see fear and failure not as threats, but as opportunities to learn and improve, we become more resilient and less afraid of taking risks. We understand that each setback is a stepping stone on the path to greater achievement and self-mastery. This perspective not only helps to diminish fear, but also empowers us to live more boldly and courageously. By viewing fear as a teacher rather than an adversary, we unlock our potential and discover new strengths and capabilities within ourselves. This Stoic wisdom reminds us that the very things we fear can become the catalysts for our greatest growth and transformation. 10. Trust in the wisdom of the universe. Finally, the Stoics believed in trusting the natural order of the universe, accepting that everything happens for a reason, even if it is not immediately apparent to us. This concept, known as amor fati, or the love of fate, teaches us to embrace whatever life brings with an open heart, knowing that it is part of a greater plan. By cultivating this trust, we can release the need to control every outcome and surrender our fears to a higher power or the wisdom of the cosmos. This does not mean that we stop striving or caring about our goals and aspirations. Rather, it means that we approach life's challenges with a sense of calm and acceptance, knowing that whatever happens is ultimately for our growth and benefit. For example, when faced with a difficult situation or a significant setback, instead of being consumed by fear or frustration, we can choose to trust that there is a reason for this challenge, even if we do not understand it at the moment. This trust allows us to let go of the need for certainty and control, and to flow with the natural rhythms of life. The Stoics believed that by aligning ourselves with the natural order of the universe, we can find peace and serenity, even in the face of adversity. We come to understand that life is a complex web of interconnected events, and that everything we experience, both the good and the bad, contributes to our overall growth and evolution. By embracing this Stoic principle, we can reduce the fear of the unknown and the anxiety that comes with uncertainty. We learn to trust that life will unfold as it should, and that whatever happens, we have the inner strength and wisdom to navigate it. This trust in the wisdom of the universe not only helps to diminish fear, but also deepens our sense of connection to the world around us. We come to see ourselves as part of a larger, harmonious whole, and this perspective brings a sense of peace and acceptance that transcends our individual fears and concerns. In essence, the Stoic trust in the wisdom of the universe teaches us to live with an open heart and a calm mind, knowing that whatever happens, it is ultimately for our highest good.